And last but certainly not least, Karolin Potter and the Spreydon-Cashmere Community Board representatives. Thank you. No problem.
Kia ora tātou. We represent the Te Hora Spreydon-Cashmere Community Board. Is that okay? Waihora. I said Te Hora. Waihora Spreydon-Cashmere Community Board. On my left is Araha Nui Grace and Melanie Coker and Helene Mountner. I want to start this off by just naming, and I know this sounds boring and self-aggrandising, I want to name the Residents Association and other committed groups in our community. The City Council used to acknowledge Residents Association in the old days with a prize for the Residents Association of the Year. Vicky Buck, in her role as Mayor, gave me one once. The Beckenham Residents Association won it. She slightly spoiled the occasion by then commenting that Beckenham was a suburb of Sydenham, and why didn't we call ourselves that? Oh, I forget what it was, but it was meant to be a great honour. We shook the hand. Craycroft Residents Association, the Huntsbury Community Centre, Hoonhay Community Association, Spreydon Neighbourhood Network, Addington Neighbourhood Association, the Lower Cashmere Residents Association, Summerfield Residents Association, the Cashmere Residents Association, Manuka Cottage, Addington Net, Rowley House, Apawaho Heskett River Network, Beckenham Neighbourhood Association, the Hoonhay Community Centre and Hoonhay Community Association, Whariora House, our schools, many of whom the board visited in the last year, our churches, some of the people from our churches sustain the residents' associations, our environmental groups including the River Network, Friends of Ernley Clark, the Friends of the Cashmere Stream, and New World, St Martin's, Barrington Wall, Zero's Cap and Hillmorton High, who hosted us when we consulted the community about the LTP. The Spreydon appreciates the opportunity to submit on the plan, and we are speaking to it. The board is mindful of the concerns expressed by, this is the first time we've ever raised this, the board is mindful of the concerns expressed by residents about rate increases. Many of those on fixed incomes, and we have the largest percentage of our population are older people in the Spreydon-Cashmere ward, are experiencing difficulty with meeting the increasing demands on their financial resources, and that includes people with debilitating illness and disability, and single parents. The board understands the financial constraints the council is under, and we do, and the efforts it continues to make to curb rate rises. This submission is made with those financial considerations in mind. We are also very conscious that, for instance, we have enormous sums of money being spent on flooding in particular and other infrastructure issues that go with having the Opawa Heskett River throughout our ward, and including house purchases. And we also know that we have pockets of flooding that continue to distress residents in our ward. There is no time when we're not having heavy rain where I don't think of those people who have had constant flooding, not just in their houses but through their garages or on their property, and how they lie awake at night listening to the water fall. Do you want to read the general maintenance?
Yep.
Yep.
So about general maintenance, which normally we don't bring up either, but the board has been hearing from residents, like all other boards in the area in Christchurch, about the standard of the maintenance by council, including the footpaths and of course potholes and roads, parks and reserves and other green space, and how it's being maintained, and also the use and maintenance of drainage facilities. One other comment we've got here, because I actually went to a talk that was given about the use of herbicides, and there's been, we've made a comment here about the council possibly revisiting sort of the information that you've looked at before around the not using glyphosate to control weeds. So apparently there's new scientific evidence that says actually it's not toxic to people. And it's been collated from a whole lot of scientific evidence, and I've got a whole email of about 10 or 12 links that you could read if you're interested. So that's something that we're wondering if you could look at, because it's a cheaper and more effective method if it isn't toxic to people. And then the other next one is around water, and we always say this about believing in pure, clean and clear water in all forms, and particularly around the Apawaho Heathcote River, and we consider the river to be our taonga, and we're always looking for funding provision for the protection and maintenance and enhancement of the Apawaho Heathcote River and its water quality, which of course Karolin's kind of mentioned already.
Community funding. The board stresses the importance of council's funding of the many community groups and projects that are at the heart of the city. The board would oppose any reduction of the level of community funding and agree with Papanui Innes's submission in this respect. The hundreds of dollars and the very few thousands of dollars that we contribute to some organisations are disproportionately important to those groups and are disproportionately valuable to the community that those groups serve. And we beg the council to maintain the level of community funding and keep it in line with inflation. Safe routes to school. This is not one of the sexy subjects, and it's not one of the subjects that has a high priority in terms of subjects that people talk about when they think about the council, but it is nonetheless a service to the community in terms of the community travel advisors and the traffic engineers that the community really values, especially the schools. We have had lots of comments, particularly in the last year, from schools and staff involved with the Major Cycle Routes program and the council staff concerned with the safety of local roads and exits in and out of schools, about how much they value the services provided by the council in this respect. Most recently, Tim and I went to, at his instigation, went and looked at the St Martin's roundabout, which we have not put in the long-term plan, but if the Mayor's idea of the long-term plan being a rolling reiteration, then we would be thinking about submitting on the St Martin's roundabout perhaps in the next year. In the meantime, the resourceful traffic engineers have implemented a light indicating at your speed as you approach the roundabout in order to try and keep people safer who are circumnavigating that very busy area around St Martin's School. Heritage buildings. The board that understands there is not sufficient funding to repair all local heritage buildings within the first few years of the long-term plan. A process has been developed to assess interest in the various heritage buildings. The board is of the view that repair of all heritage buildings must eventually be a priority for the city, given those that have gone forever. The board has nevertheless indicated below at 3.6 and 4.1 where it considers some delay may be sustainable and where it considers no delay to repair would be acceptable. We have one priority in our board, and that's Coronation Hall. We think the delay in the consideration on this building has been unfortunate, and we would like to see this building and its use addressed very quickly even in the next 6 months. We are always opposed to the sale of council assets as a financial strategy. Disability access. This board has raised disability access possibly 6 years in a row. The board recognises the importance of disability access being met, and to this end has previously sought a specific requirement in all projects and proposals that come to the council, committees and community boards to include a requirement for staff comment as to how the proposal or project will affect accessibility for people with disability. I do not understand why the council cannot implement this. Disability isn't at the forefront of anybody who is able-bodied's mind when they present proposals and projects to the board, nor is it in the forefront of fit and active people who are assessing those projects. Disability only becomes important to those who are disabled. It is one of the most discriminated against groups. I cannot understand why council processes do not allow for consideration on the impact of proposals on people with disability, especially in the ordinary idea, for instance, of getting in and out of your car when faced with deep ditch gutters. Just for example, flooding issues. As I have already said, we understand the enormity of the flooding issues experienced in the wake of the newspapers, and we appreciate the continuing work in that area by the superb engineers that are involved with all our waters. We support very much the proposals for the banks of the Heathcote River and for the Curlitz storage basin, and I have spoken to neighbours of the Curlitz proposal, and they are delighted at the idea of having a reserve that will enhance the safety and condition of the water, but also present them with a reserve next door to their land between them and Curlitz Road. The thing that gets you a little bit, though, are the people listening to that water that I talked to you about, and we have frequently met with exhausted residents whose houses are being flooded in small pockets of flooding in our ward. Manuka Cottage. Manuka Cottage has been operating in Addington since the 1990s. It's a very successful community centre. It is now in St Mary's Church. I can remember the despair I felt in 2014 when the council told Manuka Cottage that their cottage would not be rebuilt before 2016. It is delightful to know that we are very close to this, putting the spade in the turf for the turning of the first sod, and we would stress that we need continual provision of funding for the premises of this community development project that has been critical both to the support of the local community and a positive and productive civic engagement over the recent years. Our priority projects. Do you want to read that? Have a go there.
So our first priority is, as usual, the Mid-Heathcote Linear Master Plan. So we're advocating now for the implementation of the master plan. It was developed with lots of consultation quite a long time ago now. I think it was like about 10 years ago. And aspects of the plan are now being given effect as the river banks are being stabilised near the South Library and other parts as well. And that's currently underway. But we believe that now is the right time for that work to be undertaken and for provision of this funding to be advanced into the long-term plan.
Barrington Wall, this is the fourth year that the Barrington Wall has been our priority. Last year it was operational funding with the promise that it would be done last year. The difficulties have arisen, as is natural. You can't get in and out of Barrington Wall as a pedestrian. You can't get in and out of Barrington Mall without mixing it with all kinds of traffic, and it's extremely dangerous, and it has the Spreydon Library right next door to exacerbate the problem. The project was the board's top priority in 17-18 annual plan. Residents going to the mall and the adjacent park are very familiar with the near incidents and accidents. The traffic engineers have put up a camera to note the difficulties of the exits and entrances to this mall. We want the right-hand turn abolished. It's a very simple procedure if you're a person looking outside. Apparently, if you're a traffic engineer, it's not. But we would hope that this will be funded and going this year. The intersection of Barrington Street, Lincoln Road and Whiteley Ave, there is a significant community of disabled persons residing in proximity to the intersection. The provision in the draft long-term for safety plans does not include fully compliant for disability, accessibility and safety. We would seek this intersection in particular because of the numbers of people that live absolutely adjacent to this intersection who are seriously disabled and living in supported living. circumstances, that this intersection of all the intersections set the standard for being fully compliant for disability, accessibility and safety. We have a community centre in Hoon Hay that was the children's library. It's tiny and perfect. It is a lovely cottage. It is much enjoyed by the neighbourhood. We have sung carols outside of it and we've eaten the barbecues outside of it. We've had meetings inside of it, including a recent flooding one of about more than 30 people, which to our surprise were very comfortably housed. We cannot practice manaakitanga in this little community centre, which just incidentally the saving of which was led by Melanie Coker. We cannot practice manaakitanga in there because it's got no kitchen. We want a few $1,000s to put in a kitchen and a disabled loo, and this little place will be perfect for the Hoon Hay community, which has not had a community centre before. The intersection of Cashmere, Hoon Hay, Worsleys Road has been postponed. This is a dangerous intersection. It's one of those intersections that our neighbours of Hornby, Horswell, Riccarton talked about, in terms of, it's one of the intersections along Cashmere Road that our neighbours talked about, and this intersection particularly needs addressing right now. And our neighbour talked about the intersection coming off the hills of Westmoreland. Thank God for your memory. If we can have a proper intersection here with lights, that will pulse the traffic and will probably help even Westmoreland that far away. Coronation Hall, this is the one subject that we talked about. It sustained fire damage in October 2015. The Keruru Club that was occupying it have gone to other premises. We have had expressions of interest from groups including a drama group with a long-standing, credible reputation in the wider Christchurch community, and with a toy library and other people who have expressed interest in it. We are despair about the delay and consideration. We look forward to some funding. We know there's funding in the long-term plan now. We didn't know there was funding in the long-term plan because it's not apparent. It's over 500,000 and it's in OPEX somehow, and you won't be seeing it, but we only found out about it when we were briefed at long last on it. And so there is money there that's been allocated for its repair, and there are groups that are waiting. We want it earlier. Yeah, we want it earlier. We want it earlier. We haven't asked for much, and this is one of the things we have asked for. We would like to delay or delete repair of the Craycroft cabins. I'd love to go in there and have a look. I'd love you guys to go in there and have a look. There'll be people here who've been in there to have a look, but it can be fenced off and delayed, and the repair can wait for us to win lotto. I'd like to thank Hornby, Horswell and Riccarton for their contribution to the discussion on Lincoln Road, Curlitz to Rights. Unfortunately, their residents didn't elect them because they don't cover that area. We do. And our position is not that Lincoln Road should be widened. We think we can save $8 million. There are 4 lanes at the lights of Curlitz and Rights, 1 going left, 1 going right, and 2 going ahead. And we can install a bus priority lane in one of the 2 going ahead without widening this road 1 metre. Not 1 metre. And if we care about public transport, we can support that. And if we think widening roads to allow more cars means anything else but build it and they will come, we are idiots. We can save ourselves $8 million. We can save Horswell, Hornby, Riccarton from having to worry about a section of the road that isn't part of their ward. And we can get exactly what needs to be done in terms of bus priority without widening that road a single metre, and we can save $8 million.
And heritage as well.
And heritage as well. Thank you. Any comments? Do you want to say anything? You want to say anything?
We've got a minute for questions.
Okay.
Dion.
I actually just wanted to say thank you for actually bringing us something that has a saving. I've just been counting in my head, we're up to about $50 million of extra capital from just this morning, which is 1% of rates, but minus 8 million is 42 million, so thanks. I think, yeah, it's a good example of, you know, the focus of a lot of what we do, especially I think, and even the community boards, is on the capital stuff, but you even mentioned that they've got something in OPEX that we're not all seeing. So, you know, I think there's a better exercise where we could actually look at OPEX as well as the CAPEX, because that's what's really going to drive some of the savings in the council, and you identified it beautifully, and also the first community board as well. So thank you. I just wanted to make that comment because it's unsustainable.
That's right. And
to do it like this.
Dwayne, when we were
Dwayne,
I'm going mad today.
sorry, you had him.
Can you please withdraw and apologise? Withdraw and apologise, please.
You never withdrew and apologised when I was disabled. Dion, just to say that when we were visiting the Sydenham Business Association, they were very, very familiar with the bid.
Yeah, no,
and
they are.
They were talking to the university about it.
They've got a new committee, so they've gone through quite a major restructure.
I wondered if that was the story. Yep.
Thank you very much, and thank you also for the reminder again around the importance to flag the disability issues in our papers. So I'll discuss that with the Chief Executive, but there are a few things around the decision-making papers that come to Council that could be improved, and I think one of the elements is actually the requirement for any disability issues to be tagged in the actual report, and then if it's a tag in the report, then somebody's going to have to check to see if there are any disability related issues. So it serves as a reminder where it's not required, and it serves as a action point where it is. So thank you very much for trying again. Hopefully this time we'll get a result. Look, thank you very much. I'm now going to adjourn the meeting until 9:30 tomorrow morning. So thank you all very much for participating today. I think it was a very good start.